Low minimum wage for minority communities cause racial inequality.
And here's how.
The minimum wage is one of the most effective tools in the arsenal of racists everywhere. Easy. Let's say a white laborer on a construction project is getting $5 an hour, and a poor, discriminated black doing the same work would be willing to work for $1 an hour. What do you think employers are going to do? Well, one guy will work for $5 an hour, and here's another guy who says, I'm going to work for $1 an hour. Well, the employer has the incentive to hire the $1 an hour guy. So how can you discourage the employer from hiring the $1 an hour guy? Well, you just eliminate the $1 an hour. You say you get a law passed that the employer must pay $5 an hour no matter whom he hires.
In 1990, I believe, where I spent about 3 months in South Africa studying its labor market, and the major supporters in South Africa for the minimum wage law are racist unions that would never hire a black, that would never admit a black. And their stated reason was to have the wage high enough that employers would not hire black workers. And give me an example that in 1972, white construction workers, unskilled construction workers were making $1.91 an hour.
You are paying nothing!
Drive-through customers waiting for their meal,
Fighting for 15 and a living wage!
greeted by McDonald's workers in Durham joining a nationwide day-long strike.
The fact that people are standing here fighting for $15 an hour should send a clear message.
Unfortunately, I was not invested in the same way that my white employees were, but it's just kind of interesting to see how things played out and who got the most out of this summer. I can assure you it's not the black people who spoke up about it. That you can put in there. Just that.
Technological change is increasing demand for high-skilled workers to the detriment of the low-skilled. More part-time work and greater flexibility in labour markets to improve employment has pushed up wage inequality. In advanced economies, the tax and benefit system redistribute less than in the past, and in most developing countries, Social Security.
Thousands of people visit the city, fueling a $10 billion a year tourism economy. But as the popularity of the city increases, the wages of its workers have not. In the city's 161 hotels, 3/4 of employees make less than $15 per hour. The city's pay disparity falls especially hard on black residents and people of color, who hold a majority of the low-wage positions in the service industry. Over the past few years, New Orleans hospitality workers have begun fighting for their rights. In 2014, the National Hospitality Union, Unite Here, organized the workers at Harrah's Casino. It is still the only unionized casino in Louisiana. But workers' unions are not the only solution touted for addressing the racial wage gap. Advocates are also pushing to raise the federal minimum wage and increase diversity and equity programs specifically for servers and hotel staff. It could be the way to build a bridge toward a more equitable future.
Was hire black workers because they were cheaper. And so the unions figured, well, if they can make black workers just as expensive as white workers, they would improve their bargaining position. So the minimum wage law has two dramatic effects so far as human beings are concerned. It discriminates against low-skilled employment, and it lowers the cost of discrimination. That is, whenever you deny people the right to lower the price for what they sell or raise the price for what they buy, you make the less preferred person worse off.
The original coverage of the FLSA was to industries that affect interstate commerce. And the concept of what industries affect interstate commerce has been loosened dramatically over time. But there's one area where the FLSA currently still does not apply, and that is to home health care workers. Home health care workers are predominantly immigrant workers and workers of color. So we believe that expanding FLSA coverage to that group of workers could potentially help address inequality between that group of workers and other workers in the labor market. And similarly, raising the minimum wage today would likely have a larger impact on black workers than other workers in the economy, and that might help reduce racial inequality.
But wait, increasing the minimum wage would badly impact the economics. Some may say, well, let's find out.
Minimum wage will end up hurting the very people you're trying to help.
Economists traditionally believed that raising the minimum wage led to job losses. The rest of the world has been varied. Though the concept is simple, workers are paid a legal base rate for their work. Most economists believed the minimum wage could destroy jobs. This idea comes from the most basic of economic models, supply and demand.
Economics 101. If you make something more expensive, people will usually want to buy less of it. And if you make labour more expensive, then employers might want less of it. And what we call employers wanting less labour in the real world is unemployment.